Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for registering for the Manage Engine webinar and most importantly, taking time off your busy schedule and joining me for today's session. The topic at hand is best practices for implementing role-based access control. So before we begin with the session, I would like to inform you all of that we do have a live Q&A option, meaning if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to reach out to me using the Q&A option on your Zoom panel. So if you do have any questions, what I would do usually is I try to answer them live. So it would benefit the other attendees as well. But if you would rather have a discussion at the end of the session, then I'll be online as well. So you can feel free to reach out to me and ask me any questions that you may have regarding the topic or even the product at hand. So I will, before we end the session, the second half of the session is going to be a quick introduction to one of the solutions within the Manage Engine suite, which is going to address or which will help you address some of these challenges that we will be talking about in this topic. So, and that's how the flow of the session is going to be. So for the next 35 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about the need for role-based access control and how can we implement that in your organization. And I'll be talking specifically with respect to identity management and meaning how you manage your users' access rights and permissions and how you identify any unauthorized privileges and then revoke them, and also what you can do to comply with all those IT regulations. So this is what the flow of the session is going to be like. And then towards the end, as I said earlier, just a quick introduction to some of the features that will help you or which will tie into the topics that we are talking about in today's session. So before we even talk about role-based access control or the need for something like this, I'd like to talk about cyber threats, right? So today's cyber threat is high, and public as well as private organizations face the risk of both external and insider threats, right? So at the same time, the compliance demands are higher than ever, and the fines for non-compliance equally so. And not to mention the devastating effect a non-compliance today has on the loss of reputation and loss of potential business partners. So one of the most alarming findings from the cybersecurity insider threat report study that was surveyed last year is that many security teams may not recognize the financial impact insider attacks can have on an organization, and protecting the organizations against cyber threats becomes significantly more challenging because if these threats are from within the organization, especially from trusted or authorized users, and it can be really difficult to determine whether users are simply doing their job function or actually doing something malicious or negligent. And this survey here indicates that 63% of the time, the privileged IT users pose the biggest insider security risks to a firm, right? And many organizations seek constant control and an accurate overview of the users and access across their systems. And managing access rights for thousands of users or hundreds or thousands of users across your network at the same time, retaining the consistency across the systems can be complex as well as time consuming. And having full control of access rights, which are again constantly changing. It could be users, it could be the IT systems, the organizational structures, and that is tricky. And add to that, we have the local and the international regulations and legislations continually implying changes, and you have difficulty keeping these access rights constantly updated. And this is where a role-based access control or RBAC can support all of this. So every company has sensitive documents, programs or records. You protect them too strictly and the company's work grinds to a halt. You leave them open, and a catastrophic security issues can arise. So this is where a role-based access control or RBAC can help you. So with the help of RBAC, you can grant access to those who need it while blocking those who don't need access. And rather than individual attributes, it's efficient to alter the user's access rights by their role. So, just going over the need or the benefits of implementing RBAC in your network. So, managing and auditing network access is essential to information security, and access can and should be granted on a need to know basis. So, let's say if you have hundreds or thousands of employees, security is easily maintained by limiting unnecessary access to sensitive information based on each user's established role within the organization. Now, some of the other advantages are, the first point is reducing your administrative work and IT support. Now, with RBAC, you can reduce the need for the paperwork and the password changes when an employee is hired or changes their role. So instead, what you can do is you can use RBAC to add and switch roles quickly and then implement them globally across operating systems, platforms, applications. That also reduces the potential for errors when you assign these permissions to users. And this reduction in time spent on the administrative tasks is just one of the several economic benefits of implementing RBAC. It also helps easily integrate the third party users into your network by giving them predefined roles. Now, the second point is it offers a streamlined approach that is logical in definition. So instead of trying to administer lower level access control, all the roles can be aligned with the organizational structure of the business, and then users can do their jobs even more efficiently and autonomously. And visibility forms the heart and soul of modern cybersecurity. So if you can't see it, you can't protect it. And this will give you a greater visibility into your workflows, into your data activity, your traffic, into your user behaviors. And all of this can give valuable information on both possible efficiency improvements and any alleged security events. And once you've established RBAC in your IT environment, you can then automate it to perform a role assignment, onboarding, and offboarding. And this will take a substantial burden off your team. And then you can use that time to perform other essential tasks. Last but not least, all organizations are subject to federal, state, and local regulations. So, with an RBAC system in place, companies can more easily meet the regulatory requirements for privacy and confidentiality, as IT departments and executives have the ability to manage how data is being accessed and used. And this is especially significant for healthcare and financial institutions because uh, there would be a lot of sensitive data such as the PHI and the PCA data. So here I have listed some uh, three steps or just basic steps that you can implement RBAC and also sustain this practice in your organization. And I've picked again points which are related to or which are closely tied to user permissions and user privileges and user defining roles for users within your network. To begin with, step one is aligning the roles with your employees. Secondly, you perform a periodic check and review any unauthorized or unnecessary privileges tied to those privileged users or regular users and then rectify them. And thirdly, how you can effectively comply with the IT regulations. Now, the first point is identifying the roles. So, your roles cannot solely depend or rely on your business processes or tasks. Instead, you must consider other factors like your employee trust, their job proficiency, whether or not they have any specialist skills. And with this information, you collaborate with the management and the human resources to determine how many roles make sense for your company. And then once you have got that identified, you've got that taken care of, then you identify the permissions based on those roles and you inventory your system. So, in addition, your enterprise needs to consider which databases, your digital assets, and communications require the most protection. And with this clarity, you can define the roles necessary for your operations and then build the right set of limitations. And furthermore, your enterprise must consider how it enforces roles on your third party users. So, hackers and insider threats target these third party users as stepping stones for maybe their intended targets. So, restricting their access will severely limit their effectiveness as attack vectors without damaging your business relationship or process. Again, the role assignment will not end with onboarding because when roles or responsibilities of employees change, then the administrator has to modify the properties of their accounts, add them to relevant groups, move them to another OU. And these are all the tasks that needs to be addressed right away, right? These group memberships or file server permissions, they will determine an employee's access to relevant resources. So without role-based access control, what happens is users will slowly accumulate these privileges over time. And this could be even from, let's say, one-time projects or temporary substitutions. And these accounts boast of more and more permissions, attracting both external as well as your internal threat actors. And this access creep can most certainly lead your organization into a data breach if not detected in time. A couple of other points which will make this even a stronger or tighter security network is implementing your just-in-time access, which will give temporary access for specific tasks and for a specific time period, and before removing it or once the task has been completed. Now, the key distinction here is that the access is based on tasks, but not roles or responsibility. And from a risk perspective, the just in time will reduce the opportunity for malicious insiders to exploit privileged access to sensitive information. So rather than having multiple privileged accounts created and maintained, privileged access is only granted when needed, thereby enabling the controls, the monitoring, and the audit to be focused during those elevated periods. And perhaps one of the most important steps that you can take to address the insider threats is to learn what is normal and what is not. And it's a great way to accomplish this is through your behavior monitoring and analytics capabilities. And there's a good chance that the several organizations that fell victim to the high profile attacks that we read on the news, maybe if they had continuous monitoring at the time of their breach, then the abnormal behavior coming from normal authorized users, could be employees or contractors or partners, could have been quickly identified. So you establish the baselines of normal user behavior and then facilitate the detection of the users with high risk identity profiles as well as high risk activity, access, and events that are typically associated with insider threats. And with these in place, organizations can quickly identify threats based on the actions that stray away from normal patterns and then address them through manual or automated remediation. And the third point and the last point is compliance. So, with role based access control, organizations reduce both the complexity of assigning user access rights and the associated costs. So, it provides the possibility of reviewing the access rights to ensure compliance with various regulations. And besides the obvious increase in security across the organization, this also increases the effectivity which means your onboarding as well as your offboarding is really fast. And as an organization, you have a higher control or a higher level of control and knowledge of who has access to what and why, and thereby reducing the administrative work and IT support. So, implementing RBAC enforces that the access management policies are defined by roles, and that is in accordance with the policies and the regulations. So this will allow an organization to apply maybe a set of rules for the simple and consistent permission management across your systems, your users, and also supports the change management through the automated user permission updates, and also enables business level control of access rights by using roles to match the user's permissions to the organization, and thereby it increases the transparency, including the documentation of request and approval, and that will help you prepare for audits and compliance reporting, right? Because you will have full audit trails of the process history, and then that will ensure the administrative savings and support for compliance reporting to effectively prepare for these security audits. So this is just a very brief account of the topic at hand, which is the RBAC, how you can implement it. Just restricted it to IAM, identity management with respect to users' privileges. And now I want to take just a few more minutes to talk about one of our solutions within the Manage Engine suite called as the AD Manager Plus. Now, some of you might be familiar with the tool. You might be already using the application. Some of you might be evaluating the solution. But for some of you, you might be hearing it for the first time. So for those attendees here, I want to just give a quick introduction to AD Manager Plus. It's predominantly an active directory management and a reporting software. And I don't want to say active directory alone because it also supports management with other applications as well. For example, your Office 365, your Exchange, Skype for Business, G Suite, and MS Teams now. So these are some of the platforms that we support, meaning you do not have to log into multiple platforms to address your management requirements for these accounts, meaning you can just access all of them from within the AD Manager Plus console. And on top of that, it also supports or gives you the capability to access information with respect to your Active Directory, your licenses, your mailbox properties, everything with the help of predefined reports. Now, these predefined reports comes as a part of the built-in report library, and then these reports can be accessed instantly anytime. And once you get the report, you can export them, or even, in fact, before you even log into the application and generate the report that you need, you can schedule them to be sent to your inbox. So again, I'm not touching upon all the topics or all the capabilities for AD Manager Plus, but if you would like to know more about AD Manager Plus, we have an upcoming workshop. I recommend you to register for the workshop series, which will give you an in-depth understanding and demo of AD Manager Plus. But this session, I'm just going to talk about a couple of points which are again related to the topic that we spoke about today. So first off, just to simplify or accelerate your onboarding process, or even I don't want to again restrict it to just onboarding, because we also support management as well as your deprovisioning of employee accounts with the integration with HRMS applications. So we do support few HRMS application integrations like Workday, UltiPro, Bamboo HR, and Zoho People, as well as some databases like MS SQL and Oracle. So if your organization is using or the HR application in your organization uses one of these, then you can definitely link it with AD Manager Plus, meaning as and when the HR is entering the new user details, the tool will, or AD Manager Plus will detect those new user information and then create accounts in Active Directory and other platforms simultaneously. Similarly, when if the user is being promoted or he's moved to another team, or if there is some update in his attribute or in his profile that is made by the HR, that change also will be detected. And then it will be synced in Active Directory. Similarly, when the user exits the organization, then the accounts will be deprovisioned along with their revoking of their privileges and so on. So speaking of, again, employee management, we have intelligent templates that will help you set a framework or define a framework. Meaning, let's say if you have a set of users belonging to a certain department, could be finance, could be sales, could be marketing, then you can create you can create a list of templates that will be that will have all those privileges and all those attribute values pre-configured. So you can create them once, and then every time you are onboarding users to that particular department, you simply choose the template of your choice, and then all those attributes will be auto-populated. So I do have a documentation of some of the HRMS tools that we support. So I will be sharing that to our attendees who have requested for that. Yes, we do have white papers on how you mitigate insider threats as well. Thank you so much for your questions. I will be reaching out to you via email. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me. So as I was saying, the templates are a great way to ensure that these roles are closely tied to the privileges and roles associated to the designation or the teams of the employees. So meaning every time a user is being onboarded, or even set of users, could be 10 users, could be 100 users, could be more, you simply choose the template and you can upload them or you can feed them to the tool, and the accounts will be provisioned in bulk. Now, similarly, when let's say if there is an update, let's say if there is an employee transfer, if there is a promotion, then you can invoke the template which is related to the new role or the new responsibility, and then those updates or attributes will be auto-populated as well. So that again, the templates will help you. This will save you a lot of time that you would normally spend, let's say if you're modifying a CSV file or if you're using a PowerShell script to update it. Again, these are just point and click actions on the tool. So you can just click on the necessary template and then just update it. So it's quite simple, and the tool itself is designed in a very intuitive and a easy way to navigate and move around with the applications and the tools in the app, in the software. And again, if you want to review those privileges that these users have, these groups have over a period of time, if they have accumulated any unauthorized privileges, then the reports are pretty comprehensive, which will give you a very in-depth drill down information about these users' privileges. And of course, if you want to stay on top of all the changes that happens within the network, let's say if you're a single member team, or then that wouldn't be really necessary because you would know what is happening because you're the only one doing it. But let's say if you are a multi-member team, or if your office is spread across multiple geographical locations, but you still want to stay in touch or stay on top of what is happening, then you can configure real-time alerts which will be triggered every time a management action is being carried out. And most importantly, if you want to perform, or if you want to delegate any management actions or reporting capabilities to any user, could be someone from your team, your IT team, or could be even a non-admin user, could be an employee like a manager or an HR, then you can delegate very specific roles or very specific capabilities to that particular user. And these users can log into AD Manager Plus and perform whatever actions that are delegated to them. Again, the delegation is very, very specific and very granular. If you were to join me for the workshop series, I can show you how you can choose a set of privileges, set of actions they can access, which reports they can see, what they can do, what they cannot do. Then you will see the difference between the delegation wizard that you see in ADUC and the one that we have in AD Manager Plus. Again, even though you've delegated privileges to other users, you still want to review those or audit those actions carried out by the other users. Then we have audit reports to help you with that. And lastly, if you're very comfortable with delegating it to other users, instead you want those users to raise request for a particular update that has to be done to the user, then you can create a workflow wherein the request will go through multiple channels or checkpoints. And those checkpoints could be the employee's manager, could be the senior manager, could be the team head, could be your manager, could be you. So anyone that is customizable, and then the request will be finally sent to the IT administrator if and only if it is approved by in all these checkpoints. Basically, the request has to go through the channel, and then once it's approved and once it's reviewed and given a go ahead, and then finally the request will be sent to you for execution. So this is another way to keep in check all those unauthorized privileges that happen within the organization, because sometimes the IT teams do not know the context of why this request has been sent to them, and the privileges are given and then it's too late because that request could be of malicious nature. So again, I have only covered very few points with respect to the capabilities in AD Manager Plus. Highly recommend you to sign up for the workshop that is scheduled in the upcoming week, and that will give you a very good insight about the tool itself. And I'll be taking a lot of use cases and showing you how you can tackle them with the application. So that brings us to the end of today's session. I would like to thank all of you who took time off your busy day and joined me. Just two things to share with you before we end the session. So I'm going to be sharing a poll which you'll be able to see on your screen right now. So if you are an AD Manager Plus customer, then do let us know. If you are evaluating the solution and if you want our technical expert to get in touch with you for a free evaluation of the solution, then please feel free to do so in this stage. So I'm just going to keep the poll on. I can see the entries coming in live. So maybe another 10-15 seconds and then I will end the poll. Okay, so the responses are still coming in. So I'm going to wait for another 10 seconds before I end this poll. Thank you so much. If you do have a change, if you do want to change if you hadn't selected the yes option for the second question, and if you want to do so, please do reach out to me. I can definitely get in touch with the contact technical person from our team, and he or she will get in touch with you. Thank you. So I'm going to launch one more poll, which is going to be the feedback poll. So I really appreciate you to just take maybe another few seconds to just let me know what you thought about today's session. Again, the entries will be visible for me live, so it will be great to know it as and when the session ends. Great. Thank you so much. It's really nice to see your feedback. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. And with that, we've reached the end of the session. So do let me know if you have any questions. I'll be here. But if you have any questions for our technical team as well, then here is the email address. It's support@admanagerplus.com in lowercase. And to our attendees who have asked questions, especially about the documentation, I will be reaching out to you via email. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope the session was useful. Have a great day, and I hope to see all of you for the next webinar. Have a great day. Thank you.